So it looks like it's a big deal week for the Astra Militarum. We've got the new Guard Codex and the Death Korps of Krieg launch box on the way. So let's talk about the release and everything that we know about it so far. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking Imperial Guard and the upcoming new release, with new Death Riders, combat engineers, a massive great big gun, and the new Guard Codex with all the detachments shortly on the way. As Games Workshop have revealed previously, it looks like it's going to be the launch box for the Death Korps of Krieg first, and then the full Guard release after that. That is the way that they normally seem to do things for model release waves in 10th edition. You get the launch box along with the Codex to start with, then you have around about something like 6 weeks wait, and then the Codex and the kits get released individually. It does mean that there will be a bit of a wait between the Guard getting their Codex and this box and actually having the full points values and things. So like a few armies before in the edition, they might be in slight points limbo for a while. In any case though, for those looking to pick up the big Krieg box in itself, the pre-order date is Saturday the 11th of January 2025, and then the full release for the box set in stores will be on the 25th of January, where they actually get shipped off and appear on shelves. That might be a bit more typically for local games workshops as opposed to independent retailers, depending on whether or not they sell out or not. That's certainly the main release for the week, but they've also got that Skull Spacing Pack as well. That's also going up for pre-order on the same dates. At time of recording, I haven't seen anyone confirm any prices yet. They're based on the past precedent and the value of the kits within the box, or at least as Games Workshop would charge for them. It seems like it's very likely to be roughly the same price as the previous Blood Angels box set, and that one was £145, $230 or €185. It might be a little bit cheaper or a little bit more expensive than that, though I wouldn't expect things to vary too crazily from that figure. It should be an interesting news week for the Guard though. It means that this should be the week that they start going with their rules previews in earnest, no doubt taking a look at a few of the new datasheets and the new detachments. I'll certainly be looking forward to covering all that here on the channel and a full review of the Codex when we get the news of it, so feel free to subscribe or check back if you'd like to see more like this. As ever, when buying 40k things, my first port of call will be through discount retailers. I've got a bunch of channel affiliate ones linked down in the video description, usually anywhere between 10 and 21% off, depending on where you are in the world. The ones linked below help to support the channel. They don't cost any extra to use. Element Games in the UK has 15% off, Gap Games in Australia has 21%, Fenris Workshop in Canada has 10%, Wargame Portals 15% in the USA, and Tash and Geldeep is 16% in the EU. In general, for these big launch boxes, I would usually advise getting there at least fairly early if you're absolutely certain that you're going to be picking up one of these box sets regardless. Games Workshop big launch boxes have been a bit hit and miss. Plenty of them they have had lots of supply to go around and enough to sate the demands of people who wanted to pick one up, but a lot of the time they've kind of depressingly fallen short. Some sets like the Deathwing Assault one sold out really quite quickly in some locations, and the Blood Angels one went really quite fast in the USA and Canada, though it did last a little bit longer elsewhere. My guess is, with Guard being a popular faction, that this one will probably be a fairly high demand one, though no saying whether or not Games Workshop will have made more to compensate, though I think that the chance of them selling out really fast is definitely not zero. In any case, for those retailers as mentioned, here are the times where they put their box sets up for order. Midnight Eastern Time for Wargame Portal and Fenris Workshop, 10 AM for Element Games here in the UK, 11 AM for Tash and Geldeep in the EU, and midday Australian Eastern Time in Gap Games. These times are sort of between Friday midnight to Saturday midday. In any case, a big thank you to anyone supporting via these. After these, I'd fall back to other discount retailers, and if they sell out very quickly, back to the Games Workshop web store, which tends to have a bit more of the copies, but also tends to charge a much higher price as well. In any case, quickly looking through the contents of the box set, and in the box there'll be 10 of the new Death Riders, the new Lord Marshal Dreer Cavalry Commander, 5 combat engineers and a remote mine, and 1 big artillery piece. There's also the new Codex and the data cards as well, and as mentioned, pricing seems to be most likely in the region of £145 or $230. The Death Riders were a kit that a lot of people were waiting for a plastic update for. Pretty fun miniatures, mounted on their disturbing knot horses with the taloned hooves. And this box set for them has a mix of lancers and cavalry sabres, so presumably they'd have 2 different weapon choices there. For their rules, we know that they're going to have a reactive movement rule, confirmed to be the same as the Forge World datasheets. The Steed Claws will have AP-1, again the same, and they'll have either hunting lancers and power sabres combined with las carbines. For their prices, I guess they'll be around about $62 or £40 based on the Rough Riders. The artillery team is one that was pretty well hyped up as well. This one feels like the spiritual successor to the various different Forge World artillery emplacements, and has a massive cannon, a big mortar, a multiple rocket battery, and also a mighty quad gun to chew through some infantry. It's got 3 crew and a lot of nice sandbags. Apparently the big bad siege cannon has got damage 3 shots, similar to the Manticore I suppose, and the multiple rocket launcher gets anti-infantry 3+. A bit skeptical as to it actually being any good in game though, given how niche artillery has tended to be kept. I'm not too sure of the likely price when it comes out. Maybe something in the region of $65 or £37, could maybe be a little bit cheaper than that if it's similar to the field ordnance batteries. I was quite pleased to see them redo the combat engineers, which were one of the iconic Krieg units from Forge World. They seem to have the option of shotguns versus trench clubs, and one gets a fun remote mine and one gets a flamer. It looks like they get a 4+ armor save, the scouts rule, using the grenade stratagem for free, and the remote mine does some mortal wound damage to a nearby unit in some way, maybe kind of similar to bomb squigs from their preview. I guess they'll be priced somewhat similar to the command squad when they're out. Finally, for the models in the box, we've got Lord Marshal Dreer. He's armed with the Sabre of Sacrifice and has a Revive on Death rule, and he gives Death Riders devastating wounds on the charge, so all very hard hitting there. His miniature was pretty well received, a bit more of a gritty guard commander, a bit more so than the slightly more high and mighty Lord Solar Leontus, and he's got a couple of different ways that you can equip him, either with a pistol or sabre drawn. I've guessed something around the Chaplain on Bike style price, maybe £34 or $58 for an estimated cost. Then perhaps the biggest draw for a lot of people will be getting their hands on the Codex Astra Militarum, and I guess this is one way to get it around 6 weeks early. I might certainly encourage a few sales on Games Workshop's part. This one gets the limited edition Codex cover with some Kriegsmen on it. We found out a few new things about it, including the Rogel Dawn Tank Commander datasheet is a thing. There's 5 different detachments, and it appears that we're losing 4 units in total, I think it was. I'd guess almost certainly both the Kaschan characters, the Regimental Advisors and the Servitors seem the most likely to go. There are a bunch of new datasheets for all the Krieg stuff and the Dawn Tank Commander. For detachments, there's 5 different ones in here. There's the Combined Armed Regiment, which sounds like it's going to be an updated version of the Index one. The Siege Regiment is going to be an artillery-focused one, with a stratagem for your whole army to fire into melee with something. There's a Mechanized Assault one, which will be nice for some Chimeras and Tauroxes. A Hammer of the Emperor one, which will focus around tanks and has a stratagem to allow tanks just to smash straight through terrain, which could be kind of big. And finally a Recon Elements detachment, which is apparently cover, stealth and camouflage. That one sounded vaguely Tanith themed to me. I'd guess maybe slightly infantry focused and maybe things like -1 to hit or cover or some scout things going on. I guess all of that's in addition to the Bridgehead Strike one that came out in the Grotless ones, and that's to support Scions. When the Codex comes out itself, this will be the more mainstream cover. I must admit, just personally, I prefer the look of the art on this one versus the one on the limited edition one for me. Again, it's putting Kriegsmen front and centre as I guess the release for this edition, and it does sound like it's going to be a chunky book with 168 pages. God do have a lot of datasheets. Then we've also got the datasheet cards as well. They usually have the Combat Patrol datasheets in here as well, which are handy enough visual aids to have for quick reference when you need it. I do feel like they add a bit of value, though it depends whether or not you value them as much as Games Workshop typically sell them for. For the miniatures, it looks like it's going to be a fairly low points cost box, around about 400, just going on some very rough estimates for the various different units that are in there. In general though, just about any combination of guard units, unless you included the biggest and heaviest and nastiest tanks, would generally be fairly low on this metric. From a previous video, if the price does wind up being that £145 or $230 mark, it looks like it might equate to around about a 40% theoretical discount on the contents, though obviously that could be a little bit higher or lower both based on the box price and also on the individual kit price, which I've estimated. It does seem to be slightly on the upper end as per Games Workshop spectrum. Often the combat patrols tend to be around about the 30% sort of mark, but obviously it depends as to whether or not you actually value the miniatures in the box set. I guess you'd really have to like the Death Riders and the Cavalry to really see it as a particularly great deal. I think they're really quite liked by a good portion of the fan base, but maybe not literally by everyone, and maybe a little bit less helpful if your primary regiment isn't Krieg, I suppose. Then looking to the future, like I said, probably around about 4 to 8 weeks time from now we'll get the future Guard releases. The old style combat patrol with the field ordnance batteries and sentinels has unfortunately already gone away, and this one will be the replacement. This one's got a command squad, a Kazakin squad, and then 2 units of Rough Riders. Again, very cavalry heavy, but just in general this one didn't go down particularly well in terms of fan reaction. I feel like it's just overly heavy on the Rough Rider cavalry, which do have a bit of a different aesthetic to the rest of the Guard army. Plenty of people do like them, but maybe doesn't really seem like particularly helpful central units for getting your collection started, not compared with the previous one with its infantry and other basic things. Finally, we've got the two other Death Korps kits that don't appear in the box set. The Death Korps have a heavy weapons team with a choice of twin heavy stubbers or fairly punchy sounding Krieg heavy flamers, which have strength 5, AP 1 and damage 2, which is fairly punishing. And apparently that fire coordinator who runs alongside them, he allows them to fire in death in some way. I guess it looks like these guys will be getting a different profile to the regular heavy weapon squad, and that does mean that you could spam them really quite hard if you really wanted to. You could put 18 heavy weapon teams on the board if you'd like. Then finally we've got the Death Korps Command Squad. Again, due to the kit differences, it looks like this one will probably be a completely new datasheet for the Codex. It's led by a Commissar and has a Alchemist Medic and a Commissar in training, all Death Korps themed of course, plus the usual things that you might expect like a standard Master Vox and a special weapon guy in the unit. I guess this one will probably only be able to lead the Krieg infantry. Will be interesting to see what sort of special rules it gives. I don't know if it will make the squad quite as chunky as the 5+ feel no pain that the previous Marshal could give you. We'll wait and see on that front, I suppose. In any case though, certainly going to be a big week for the Guard. Let me know your thoughts as to the box set and whether or not you'd be tempted to pick one up if you're a Guard player, and what are your hopes and fears for the Codex when we do get the rules for them. As mentioned, feel free to check out the discount links in the video description if you do look to pick it up on Friday nights to Saturday morning. A big thank you to anyone using those, and feel free to check back on Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly be covering all of the new Guard rules when we get them. In any case though, I'll leave that one there for now. Finally, I'll just give a quick shout out to the channel's Patreon page if you'd like to help and support the channel. That's links down in the video description, and it's my main source of income here on YouTube. There are a few benefits for people choosing to support on there, things like seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, including a bunch of video choices right now, and also regular entry into the monthly prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits, the next one being for some Imperial Knights. In any case, feel free to check that out, it's linked down in the video description below. A massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.